this is not your ordinary motorcycle. This is not your ordinary adventure bike. But before we understand this specific bike, let's go back down to history. In 1980, BMW decided to create something nobody knew. Nobody even knew they actually needed it. And the market, the segment hadn't existed before then. And that was 1980. And that was the GS brand, the GS side of the BMW Motorrad segment. Now, if you don't know, GS stands for Gestade Strabe. I know I've butchered that name very much so bad, but it is German to mean off-road road. So BMW created this whole segment whereby they were trying to build an adventure segment. And people didn't actually understand that. All BMW had been known for then was winning Dakar races with their famous R80 Boxer. But at the time, that was what they were known for. KTM, on the other hand, they were really up and about in terms of off-road and, going about all mixed trails because they weren't really classified as adventure bikes then, but they could do the same as off-road and on-road. Now, fast forward to 2008 or 2004. Now, two people, Ewan McGregor and Boorman, decided to travel the world on a motorcycle and of course, document it. And they called it the long way around. Now, their first choice wasn't actually the BMWs. Their first choice were the KTMs. Because then they seemed more, but they were afraid that KTMs are a bit more expensive, and then the aspect of reliability, and so their second choice was BMW's 1150 GSAs. Once the long way around came out, the number of adventure riders exploded because that's when people actually saw that, hey, you can actually go riding such a bike. BMW sales started skyrocketing. The adventure market was born and it skyrocketed. And BMW's GSs now became the standard for adventure biking. And we're going to explore that in a minute. I know you're probably wondering why, of all the GSs, why did I choose this one specifically? Well, for two things. First of all was, in my opinion, I believe this to be the best generation of the GSs, specifically the 1200s, because it sits right in between modernism and old tech, or tradition rather, from coming all the way from carburetors to EFIs, to braking systems, to suspension. I believe this specific model, especially the 2007 model, is the best. And the other thing is it's a Hexhead, meaning that it becomes very easy to do services, especially valve clearance. Means you just need basically three tools. The gauge, flat screw, Hexhead. So you can do that either with a Y, or I think it's an 8mm or something, and then of course a screwdriver or a hex driver. Easy as that. The other thing is because it's an oil head, meaning that this is an oil cooled rather, but it does have an oil radiator right at the front, to help with cooling. And basically this is a bare-bone motorcycle. The thing that I like the modern aspect of it is it comes with ABS, because the things that I was trying to achieve, rather to get with my KTM 690 was looking for something that adventure-like, didn't have too much tech. ABS was a must, and I couldn't afford this bike at that moment. That's the reason why I got this BMW 1200 GSA to be specific. And of course, I wish you guys, if you really want to understand real comfort, especially when it comes to motorcycles, drive a GS. There's a reason why Maringo, the pride is in the name, because it's very comfortable. Let's talk about the specs of this specific model. So what you get is a boxer engine that's 1170 cc's that produces 100 horsepower and about 115 newton meters of torque, and its top speed is around 230 kilometers per hour. But that's not where the bike really comes alive. I think it really comes alive when you get to 4.5 1000 RPM. That's where the bike really kicks up, and you can feel the pull, and you can feel everything in between. The other thing about this bike is you can see that it's very massive compared to the standard GS model. That's because this is a GS Adventure, meaning it has a longer fuel range. The tank is about 30, has a capacity of 30 liters, which gives you a range for about 450 kilometers to about 500, again, depending on how fast or how well you're riding. The other thing about this tank is it also offers some sort of protection in terms of like you can get you don't get knees directly, you don't get the wind hitting your knees directly, so it kind of creates this sort of bubble towards you. And the difference between this and the standard GS is this one has a bit longer suspension, it's a bit higher. When I stand on it, I kind of have to tiptoe on it, and it's very much affordable. Not really affordable, it's very much suitable if you plan on going on off-road. Now, I've seen people take this bike on hardcore off-road. If you have the skills, definitely do that. But what you find is a lot of people who ride these kinds of motorcycles, it's called a grandpa bike for a reason, or a dad bike for a reason, is because most of these people who buy these bikes don't really do them, don't really take them out for adventure. All they do is they take them to coffee shops or coffee runs, to Java and all that. That's why you'll see a lot of these bikes going to, rather being used for. But for the occasional people who go for long adventures, the comfort on this bike, it's something else. And you actually sat inside the bike. That's how you feel when you're sitting on you feel like you're inside this bike, and it gives you that sense of oneness with the bike. Woo, this is not very nice. It gives you that sense of oneness with the bike, whereby you feel very, very much planted in this bike. Well, granted that this bike is very heavy, it really comes in at about 250 to 256 kgs wet, meaning fully fueled up and with oil in it. Now, the best thing about this bike is, like I said, it's very easy to maintain, and that's because of how the engine has, the whole mechanism, the mechanical aspect is it. So the engine is very much separate from the gearbox, just like kind of what you see in a car, right? So then the other aspect of it is that it can be quite expensive to get parts for this bike, because again, it's a 2007 model. It's almost 2 decades old, you know. Actually, it's almost 2 decades old. So getting parts for this bike can be a bit tricky. So, and the reason why, of course, it's also how you maintain the bike. If you do regular services on time, and you address issues that really arise, this bike is a bike that will last you for decades. And that's why a lot of people who own these bikes don't really sell them, because where are you going to get a BMW whereby if a bulb breaks, you can just go to a boda shop and buy one for 5 bob or 10 bob, and that's it, you're already fixed. That's the beauty of this bike, is it doesn't require a lot of maintenance. One of the biggest fears I had about owning such a bike was because of how the boxer engine is placed, because there are 2 opposing cylinder heads. What if you drop it, and what if you happen to damage, the cylinder head? And the other thing, of course, was about the weight. Because this bike is very heavy, it took a while to really get used to the weight. Being 120, no, not being 100, but being 256 kilograms, especially fully fueled up, it becomes really, really heavy to pick up. But there are techniques in which you can actually learn on how to lift this bike quite comfortably. It doesn't matter what kind of, how much you weigh or how strong you are. If you really put your back into it, literally, You can lift this bike up with a lot more ease. So yeah, this bike has been really amazing. I've done I've ridden all the way to Rwanda with my wife and back. Nothing failed. Nothing. The only thing that failed was actually the nozzle, and I'm gonna put some clips for Rwanda here, so that you can actually see how amazing and beautiful going on an adventure is on a bike. And just because it's heavy, a lot of its weight really goes is really at the bottom, so it feels very, very nimble. And especially when it comes to corners, this bike really just wants to go, you know. And the pickup speed, oh my lord, just like that, man. Woo! Oh, that was amazing. I really love this bike. So there you go, guys. This has been the first impression or the review of a very short one of the BMW R1200 GSA 2007 model. I don't know why I'm talking like Trump. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Ride safe, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.